want to switch gears and
no pun intended.
yeah, exactly.
I'm a cyclist, 100% a cyclist. I don't drive.
Okay.
And in 1981, I started working on Ankeny Street, which is the original Portland Bike Boulevard, they called it back then.
Okay.
That's at the Bike Repair Collective, and then started City Bikes on that street because it was a greenway. I don't like bike lanes. I don't like to be around traffic, so the greenway is a way of getting safely through wherever they exist, without having to interact with traffic too much, except when you have to cross a major road like I just did over here on Burnside. I moved to Portland in '81 from, I had lived in southern Oregon and at the coast. And I like the coast, but I don't like riding on it. You know, like I find all the back roads that parallel 101 because it's just not pleasant to have cars whizzing by you and the exhaust fumes and all that. So whenever I go on a bike tour, I try to find back roads like the Willamette Greenway down to Eugene or something like that. And I'm very happy that Portland got away from the idea of bike lanes and back into the idea of the greenways, because that's the way to go. And I use the bike maps that the city puts out, which shows every little good street to ride on. They're streets that have been selected by cyclists and people who know the best way around as an alternative to riding in traffic. And the idea would be so that children could ride on them safely, and elderly people. I mean, they say from 8 to 80, you know. And I suddenly think of the Sunday Parkways because it's when everybody, when the whole route is a greenway, and you see all these kids on little bikes pedaling along with their parents, and I think that's really got people to ride with their kids on the streets. Now that we can legally go through stop signs without stopping because of the new law, the Idaho stop sign rule, I mean, we have to pause and look and make sure no one's coming. But actually, they could put more stop signs in there because that would make it discourage people from driving, and yet bikes could keep going through. You know, I do like the fact that they changed that rule, though. Oh, there's some animosity. People say, "What are you running stop signs for?" It's like, we're allowed to. You know?
Yeah.
But it's not running a stop sign; it's treating a stop sign like a yield sign. Anything to discourage drivers, I would say more traffic calming barriers. You know, make it so if you're driving, you can only go maybe 2 or 3 blocks to get to your house, but you can't use it as a way to avoid driving on the arterial, with a general hijacking of the greenway by drivers. And I can understand why they do it, but I think they shouldn't. A lot of cars use it as a cut through. They don't want to drive on Division because it's, you know, too many cars, and so they use the greenways. And so for years it was a problem, and Ankeny was a problem because there was people would get on Ankeny and they would drive up to, say, 19th and then pop over to Burnside and stuff, until they put some traffic calming devices. And on Clinton Street they put one in at 17th, and they put another one in at about 30th or something. And that's a big improvement because it restricts cars from using it. There was a huge opposition to Lincoln. They wanted to put it, they did put a traffic thing at some point on Lincoln. And a lot of people were complaining and saying, well, this is the way I get to Fred Meyer's, you know, I'm gonna have to drive on Hawthorne now. It's like, yeah, you will. But on the other hand, I don't think they should have bike lanes on Hawthorne because it's a car street. And they put in a middle turning lane on Hawthorne, which is great because you could actually use it as a bike path if you need to go a block or so. You know? So I like the 3-lane solution as opposed to eliminating parking or whatever, because people who do drive need to have streets they can drive on. And I don't think they should put bike lanes on Powell. I think they should put a greenway on Franklin instead, because people shouldn't be riding their bikes on Powell. They should be told, no, go over there, there's a really good street right next door. Or go that way, there's one on Gladstone. You can't get everybody out of their cars. It's not going to happen. But if you make it better for bikes, then people, especially with the electric bikes now, people will say, well, I actually don't need to drive. I can jump on one of those Nike bikes and I can go to Fred Meyer on a bike instead of driving. The greenways make that a better option for people who are actually afraid to ride their bikes because of drivers. There's a discouraging fact that this bicycle ridership has decreased in Portland recently, and if it wasn't for the electric bikes, it would have decreased radically. The electric bike craze has boosted the numbers if you include electric bikes as cyclists. But if you take out the electric bikes, there's actually fewer people riding.